Welcome, everybody, to 2026 with Pandion's first expert speaker session. We are so pleased to have Laurel Stearns. I've had the pleasure of knowing Laurel for a very long time, many years in the music space. We came up in the club scene together, kind of like the underground
Long time
rock,
ago.
punk rock, yeah, long, long time ago, punk rock scene. And but she's such an eclectic being, and that's what I appreciate about her as being one of my dear friends and colleagues. And so she stayed more deeply ingrained in the business, and I wanted to bring her expertise because of the different ways in which she's operated and what she's seen. So currently she's working with Primary Wave. I'm going to hand the mic over to her in a sense, and I want her to give her a little bit of a background on herself and the different artists she's worked with, and then what today is about, and then we'll continue forth from here.
Thanks, Co. Hi,
Yeah, honey.
everyone. Thanks for joining. Thanks for having me. And yeah, as Co was saying, like I definitely have a very eclectic experience slate. This has been a lifelong journey. My career is a long game career. It was never something that I didn't even really know what the music industry was when I first started in it. And my early days were actually in writing and interviewing artists and reviewing shows. And I realized like I wanted to go deeper and I wanted to like understand what made the whole thing work. So I started working in recording studios, making records with everyone from like God, Ozzy Osbourne to David Bowie to the Pixies. Like I was a part of all these crazy sessions and realized how important it was to make the right record. And then that led me into management, where I started working with a lot of really hardcore touring bands. So they weren't necessarily radio driven back in the day. That was a very big thing. If you got on the radio, like the doors would open. Um, Today it's a mix of things. We don't really know what will open the door, but we have to turn over every stone. So went from that into management, learned the ropes as a manager. You touch everything. You are literally like the hub in the circle of the wheel. Every spoke of our business touches the manager, and it's been incredible. The journey has been long and really, really inspiring. Like I have not tired of any of it. I did go for about 10 years. I went into A&R world, making records at Capitol and Sony. And then I went back into management after Capitol tenure. At Capitol, I did sign a lot of really cool early aughts bands. Like I brought in Interpol and LCD Sound System and the Decemberists and Fisher Spooner, and I worked on a lot of different things at Capitol. And then the tides were changing. This was right, I left there in 2008, and the tides were changing, and streaming was just about to start into play. And I went into back into management because I saw that things were going to be very different. Even in my Capital tenure, I saw, people were like battling Napster, no streaming, no stream. I was like, oh my God, this is so popular. We should be doing deals with this streaming entity, not fighting it. So I found myself back in management. I then opened up the West Coast offices with my then boss, Ron Lafitte, um, and brought in the Decemberists because I was working with them as an A&R person, and worked on records with Chris Cornell, and just had like a really interesting small roster there, and kind of changed the environment of Red Light because it was very jam band oriented before I came in with my indie alternative mindset. So stayed there for a while, and then decided I was going to do something a little bit different. And I started my own thing with a partner and started working with Father John Misty and White Denim and Red Fang, and just built out this thing. And that's when Primary Wave came in and said, we'd like you to join us. And currently I have a very interesting hybrid position here at Primary Wave, which is mainly known for its legacy artists. And I mean, so many, from Bob Marley to Stevie Nicks to Devo to James Brown, Prince, I mean, so much. And I get to work on creative for those artists, and then I have my management roster. So we can jump in because I know that you guys we have a case study with Teen Mortgage, and Teen Mortgage was a band that I took on about 2.5 years ago. And my roots have been in punk rock forever. And so that is very true to me. I think when you're working with something, when you find things that are really true to yourself, um, you become tireless and you have lots of ideas as opposed to, it really depends on the person, obviously, but I have that was my career path. I really needed to be connected to what the music was and the path that I understood the best. And this is a really good case study of that. Um, I found them. It was very strange. Someone had told me they were watching a band with the drummer had one of my band's T-shirts on. So I was like, oh, cool. And I went to Spotify, checked it out,
Which
saw that they
T-shirt?
had
What T-shirt band? What was it?
oh, it was a band called Red Fang. They're a hard rock band, and from Portland, Oregon, who reside in like the more metal and hard rock world, and beloved band in those circles of Mastodon and the heavier Ghost. Like they're part of that scene. So I checked them out. I was like, wow, this is really good, and I went to Spotify and I saw that they had really powerful streaming numbers already with nothing behind it. So I was like, okay, I'm looking at this, I see this, and they're touring because a friend of mine had seen them live in Los Angeles, and I realized like, oh, this guy looked them, where are they from? They're from the DC area. So a week later, I'm at a festival with another client, and I see they're on the lineup. So very, very impressive. This band is working. So I started, that was the discovery moment. That felt like, okay, this is a band I can fully identify with. So let's see what else is happening here. And I felt like there was something going on when it comes to like this band is already streaming. Like they are actually in an algorithm on a very, prominent DSP, Spotify. So I think we can go to the next Natalie, the next slide. And so, this band had already really, really they've done a lot of things on their own, which also impressed me. I was like, okay, this band isn't standing around waiting to be saved for the phone to ring. They're doing things. They're putting themselves out there. They are very, very aware of who they are. They had an identity. The artwork was really strong. So, they were touring the US in a completely DIY fashion. I mean, like in a small van because they are a two-piece. So that's a blessing. A lot less money being spent on hotels and food and all of that, and gas because the vehicle they're driving in wasn't, a Econoline. It was a small like minivan. So I was really like impressed by this like the stamina and the commitment. So I'm like, you know what? I can do something with this. I feel like, let's see who these people are. So I went after their show at that festival that I saw them at and I met them. It was very, very organic and I waited until their very long merch line died down. That was great to see. People were buying their t-shirts. They were really excited to see this band and you see indicators, right? If you're doing something and you're like, "Oh, this is happening, this is something that may indicate there's a business here. There's something going on here. So let's see what we got." And so I introduced myself. We started talking. I did tell them that I manage this other band that they love, and they were really excited. And they gave me their information. And I said, I'll check in with you guys, and yeah, let's just keep in touch. So that was like a really cool organic moment. And I think we can go to the next slide. Um, so, they're doing their thing. I start seeing how I can help them organically. I put them on some dates with the band they love. They were like, "This is amazing! I can't believe we're on these shows." And we just started building together, like a little bit. I wasn't like, "I'm going to manage your band." I didn't come in heavy handed. I was just like, what's going on? What can we do? And then we started talking more. And I was like, you know what? I felt, and I have a partner with this band who is also an incredible manager. And we both decided that we wanted to approach them because I started building rapport with them. And I felt like, you know what? This is something I actually want to make this a little more official if they're into it. So we did bring that up. And they were open to this possibility, which if you have an experienced, person asking to get involved, this is an opportunity. And they were trusting and they felt like they could build with us. So we got into it and we made it official. Um, and I think we could go to the next slide. And when we got into this whole, moment of like, okay, what are we going to do next? Well, we decided you've got two EPs that are on Spotify that are separate. They're kind of in a vacuum. It's just digital. There's nothing physical. And this is a punk band. So if you're getting into the world of punk or metal or really anything, you have to have physical product in the marketplace. The retail world is so important for a band like this. I mean, it's really like I was like, you guys, we got to make vinyl happen. Like, let's let's
Let me
combine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
really quick, because Laurel understands this genre really well and she understands the culture and she's talking about physical product. Not everyone necessarily should just jump and go and make vinyl. You have to really understand who is your audience, who's your end user. So, having physical product, definitely, I personally recommend. So, it may even be a simple piece of merch, something that creates that relationship to the audience, but you have to make it yours. Like, who lives and breathes, and who do you want to call in and invite in to be a part of your community, and then speak to them in the way that you believe that you like to be spoken to as well, and that's relevant to you as an artist. So what Teen Mortgage did, and with the guidance of what Laurel is saying, it is an important factor, A, for continued marketing and engagement with your audience, B, to also make money. This is one of the things. I'm going to let Laurel continue because I have more questions for her, because I think it's important. And one of the things that she did talk about, and which one of the questions I would love to expand upon, is that if somebody like herself and her partner come to you and they actually are legitimate and they have the chops to help you cultivate and grow your career even further, what a blessing. But how do you even get there? Teen Mortgage, they slogged and slugged and did it all. They just did not give up on themselves, and I think that's a key component to this conversation today. Is they reached a place, and this is per conversation that I've had with Laurel prior to this call, is that they reached a point where she really could utilize all her incredible skills. So you have to decide as an artist how much you're going to give, how much you're going to be resourceful, even when you're dog tired. What does it really take? And so we'll get into that further. Thank you for allowing me to interject.
yeah,
Any Laurel.
of course, Co. Love the words of wisdom. And yeah, I mean, as to point to Co's point, when it comes to the commitment, you know, things happen when they happen. And this was a situation where this band was very committed. I mean, they had been writing this, they're gonna in let's see, in a year, this band will be, well, 2 years. It'll be 10 years old, this band. Now, they only had two EPs out. So they had spent that initial time writing great songs and figuring out who you are and what you want to say and what the whole package looks like. They were just getting into that. The pandemic hit, so that put a little bit of a damper on things, as far as touring. But right when, the pandemic moment was over, they were out there again. So their commitment, whether you're on the industry side or you're on the artist side, your commitment needs to be there. This is, I mean, the music industry itself is, I don't really call it a job, it's a lifestyle. Like it's, you really live and breathe it. And so, these things, they basically inform how, who, what, where. And this band, for what they want to do and what they had in mind, it aligned perfectly with my experience and my partner's experience. So with this being said, we got vinyl into the pipeline. I found, a great friend who runs a punk label and has distribution. So it came from a place of I hate the word authenticity, but it's a word that we can all use and understand. It was a real community where their vinyl came out through. So that vinyl was selling through. I think we went through 3 pressings in a very small amount of time. And that the band just started getting more and more inspired, and they started seeing things moving. And at one point, we put in real agents. We got them, a European UK agent, and then we got their North American agents, and we started, submitting them for tours and making things. This was a pivotal moment that was happening, and it they could feel it and they felt inspired by it. So let's go to the next. Yeah. So we're in this place where we're doing tours. We're getting really strong tours. Like, I was really blown away. Like, this band went to the UK and Europe and opened for Smashing Pumpkins and Weezer without a label deal. I mean, they played the O2 Arena without without anything. It was kind of incredible. And then to have, like, photos of, like, Billy Corgan and Rivers Cuomo and James, the singer of Teen Mortgage, sitting at the head of the dinner table, all talking. I was like, this is crazy. Like, it was just an amazing moment to see bands, fans, all of these people start to embrace them. And it was very this thing was very word of mouth, because there was no, like I said, there was no support at this moment. It was us getting opportunities for them to be on the right tours, the right festivals. They played a ton of great festivals that fit in this realm. Danny Wimmer Presents does arguably the only hard rock festivals left in America, from Aftershock, Louder Than Life, Sonic Temple. It's all the big, Foos, Corn, like, all, those types of festivals. This band they were on those bills. And we were starting to get them other tours, and things just kept going. We haven't, I'm looking at the presentation. The press really hasn't really been a thing yet. We have gotten some cool looks, but this band just keeps connecting on a very word of mouth, grassroots level, and
So
the
can we
live
talk about
audience.
that? Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
And while we're moving through this, I know I'm not sure what had you come to this session. Is it, are you curious about what it takes? Are you a manager yourself? Are you an artist? So it'd be great to get questions if you have anything that you would want to ask. We're just still going to move through this, but the more audience participation we can get, the better it feeds you and your curiosity and why you're here. So in the interim of that, if no one throws any questions up, I'm going to ask questions. Grassroots word of mouth, that is such an essential piece to anything. It's sort of like, even though the word authenticity is overkilled, I don't care, because it's true. So what is that? What does it look like when you're working with bands around the grassroots word of mouth? Why is it so important? And how, per what you've seen, can artists, what do they need to do? What do they need to make sure? What are some elementary, basic 101 things that they need to do in order to grow their grassroots word of mouth presence, in your humble opinion? What have you seen work out there? Your expert opinion.
Well, when it comes to, like, we can use this area, of music. Uh, it's the songs are important, and are they talented? That's gonna be embraced by everyone. You don't,
Yes.
when Billy and Rivers bless a band that, like, really no one knows about, to go on tour with them to open up arena shows, that is something, because it was based on the music, and that was it. It wasn't hype, it wasn't press, it wasn't, like, any of those things. So, the word of mouth thing, and the credibility of people. I mean, it's similar in anywhere. You have, like, a rapper bringing up another rapper, right? They bless them. It's like, yeah, I'm going to take you up. I'm going to put you on my track, or whatever it may be. And with this band, the bands that just started really, like, embracing them, and saying, yeah, these guys are the real deal, was just we just kept creating those opportunities within our
Let's
our
just
network.
Let's just say you don't
Mhm.
have that though, because you and I have come from that when there wasn't that, right? So this kind of some of the people that attend this is they don't necessarily get that I'll call fortunate because there is a lot of great music that don't always
Well,
blessing. Or,
sure, but pre me, this band was still streaming a ton
yeah.
on their own. You know, they were streaming a ton.
So it's
The
discovery. See, so one of
it's
the things is it's people are discovering the music. You know, obviously the art itself has to be credible and great and wonderful, but it's the don't give up, keep putting out your music, keep refining your music, and it only takes one. Shush, shush, puppy. It's like Mother Teresa. It only takes one. So in your network, you know, you get your cheerleaders, you get them to talk about your music, you get them to get inspired because they're authentic to who you are, they're true to your music. That creates that bubble and that word of mouth. You know, pre Laurel, this band, their music was tight. They also fit in a genre that might be a little more active than maybe a genre that you might be in. But it's never to say never. You keep plugging away, you keep talking to anybody and everybody that shows interest in who you are and continue
Yep.
to have them inspire their friends to learn more about who you are. And that is that word of mouth, that base. And when we talk, because Laura and I'll chat and we'll get excited and we're still curious, we're like, oh my gosh, did you read that or did you see that? Because you have those friends too, and you're being genuinely excited about the thing and they respect you, that is also how that word of mouth continues to organically unfold itself. So just to continue to perpetuate that. And then, yes, this band, right time, right hour, great music, good energy, stars aligned, and then everybody just started to see them and they gave them their blessing. That can happen. And in the interim of that, it's the rest of what we've been talking about here. So sorry, I just wanted to integrate and share that because I want to
Yeah,
give
of
inspiration
course, and
not to give up.
it is really important to show up for your community. If there's a community where people are doing, a, a coffee shop, night or something of that, it's just show up. I mean, in the beginning of my career, I didn't even know what the music industry was. I just went to every single show I could that I cared about and met people, hung out with people, just got to know what was going on. And I know it's a little bit different now because things people live online so much. And with that, you can still build your own little micro world, right? Like, I mean, to be honest, if I see that a micro influencer is really into one of my clients, I'm more excited about that than someone who's got millions and millions of followers with like not a lot of engagement. I would rather like connect with that micro community online than the macro. I mean, I'll take it all, but like I mean, as I actually have a small, totally different world business that is, I have a small business online that is like a completely different thing, but it is a micro. Like I sat on a panel at UCLA with it was like I think it was like Interscope's head of digital, and we started talking about the micro and macro influencers. And he's like, he knew my Instagram. He's like, "You're a micro influencer," and I was like, "I'm not like trying to be that, but I know that my little hub online, the thing that I've created on there, actually works. It is a little side business and it's a strong business. So I do to apply that to this world. If you are an artist and you are working on things like the way you look, the way you show up, the way you present, the way you communicate with people, who you're following, who follows you back, like you can do a lot in that space. It is a very important space. And this band also really pays attention to, their aesthetic. So hopefully this is
Yep.
helpful.
No, it's all relative. It's all relevant because this is the stuff that I want to also dig in with you is the fact that when we talk about credibility, you are true to yourself. How do you show up? What is your vibe? Do you have something to say with how you look? Are you just, who you are and your lyrics are that? Or there's so many variables on what artistry can look at, be about and look, and not to be shallow or in any way. But if you have a vibe, I mean, Laurel worked with Guar. I mean, they definitely, I don't know if anybody even knows who that band is, but that was ostentatious, audacious, crazy, but they could rock, and so if it's not like you make it up to have a gimmick, but that it makes sense and it's true for you. That is relative. And the micro community can live online and offline. So what does that look like? If you're more of a physical person, do what she's saying. Hit the coffee shop, busk, go somewhere, talk to someone, go and instigate it for yourself to get yourself playing, to get that experience to be live, because that does matter too. This is where artists are making money. People are getting hung up on syncing. It's very that's one way, but think of the other ways in which you can make money for yourself, which is live performing and selling merch is very, very lucrative if you can find it. And it doesn't have to be at the O2, even though that's fantastic. You can create something that you're just touring the four boroughs around you, and you'd be surprised what you
You
can unearth.
y- you will sell more merchandise on a small show that has a lot of people that are there for you than supporting a giant band there that the fans don't even know who you are. So, and you can do things cost effectively. You can go to a thrift store and reuse t-shirts out of a thrift store and print over them and do things in a way that like just use your creativity. That's what we're here for. That's what this business is about. So I think we could go to
Next
the
slide.
next slide.
Actually, before we jump in, does anybody have anything that they want to ask or point out or bring up or flag that we've been talking about? I encourage you to not be shy and share. Okay. You know it's always here for you. We got the chat open. So keep moving along here. Thank you, Laurel.
Yeah, of course. So as we've been building and nurturing things along here, my tenure with this band has been like 2.5 years so far. Um, we weren't looking for a label. We were selling our own vinyl. We did a little merch deal, not a binding one, just a company to facilitate our online sales and our in real life tour sales and fulfillment. So we weren't looking for anything because I'm like, we're kind of doing this, so let's just keep building it. And then Roadrunner came along, so they aesthetically make sense, the right environment, the right culture. They have lots of people there that work in this space. They've done a great job for Turnstile, even though Turnstile's done a great job for Turnstile in all realness. I mean, that band's been around for over 15 years and I've been watching them for 12 of it, and they're getting their flowers today and I'm so happy to see that. And we liked the environment, we liked the people that we met there. And, we felt really strongly about, all right, if we're going to do this, like people are going to let us do what we do and they're just going to help support it, monetarily and just be there, for us when we need their support. And the Roadrunner partnership, thus far, like we've seen things come from it. There's been more sync activity in the right places. That has definitely, that's a direct result of our partnership there. Um, you know, our music their music, not our, the music is, it's available everywhere, and it's something that like there's a perception that happens when someone from Roadrunner is connected to, it's Warner Brothers, it's Atlantic, and there's a perception thing that goes on when you have a an establishment connected to you. People are more likely to go, oh, what's that, immediately, as opposed to like, I don't know what that is because it doesn't have the Warner or the whatever label mark on it. So, you get different placement. Like there are things that happen when you go into those relationships that I was like, all right, let's take a gamble, because they are all gambles when signing to a label and especially a major. Um, but we're betting on ourselves. We're betting on, like, we're not wholly relying on them to do everything. We're still doing what we did from the get. So we're still building, we're still growing it, and we need, more, it's just adding more to the team to help us find uh find more of those fans and those gatekeepers that will help support and echo what this band is about in the marketplace.
You
So
you touched upon this, and we've been talking about it, but it was asked again about understanding the band's demographic. I mean, you to me, I work off of psychographics, but it's really understanding the band's culture, right? So
Hmm.
would you say part of the success was deeply understanding the band's psychographic demographic? How important is it to really understand your demographic? And I don't know if that question says, how important is it to really understand your demographic as a band, or how important is it for the manager to understand what that psycho demo is? On both sides, I think it's important. But do you want to speak to
Yes.
that, Laurel?
Oh yeah, I mean, you have to have everybody aligned with who and what this band is about. Otherwise, people are going to suggest things that don't make any sense, and the band will end up in an area that like that you're wasting their time. It might be frustrating. You do a whole shoot for a certain outlet, and it's like, well, it wasn't really the right outlet, and yeah, it's got like 1,000 views. Like you want to, when it comes to supporting the situation, it's like it's really important to understand what and who and where you're trying to target, because you have to build the foundation of the house strongly, right? You can't just build a big mansion on a hollow box. You build from the ground up. And if you build from the ground up, meaning like the deep, deep fans, like the real heads, like those people who are just like, they'll die for you. Um, and then if it gets to the point where it starts to, all boats rise on this ocean, on this foundation that has been built, then we get lucky, because I do think there's a lot of luck involved in this stuff.
Yep.
Um,
I
a
mean,
100%.
yep, 100%. It's really
So
bizarre. Yep.
yeah, yeah, there is timing and the environment, like where we are today. Like we all know that, like where we are today is, it's a heated climate, right? So an artist singing about the oligarchy, I'm probably gonna have some people connecting with that, and this is where we are. So this band and all of the punk bands that I've, been seeing pop out of nowhere, and or not nowhere, but like get the light shined on them, from Amel to Turnstile to Mannequin Pussy to all these artists that are they're starting to really do great commercial things. There's a time for it. So the
It's just
stars are aligned.
totally. And Kim, you're asking me some funny questions here. The practical tools is your mind, right? So as a manager, so here's the deal. If you're managing an artist, you better know your stuff, because a lot of times people will say they're managers. They'll lead an artist, just like what Laurel's saying. They'll put them in front of the wrong audience. They'll put them on the wrong magazine. They'll put them on the wrong radio show. So the practical tool is, first, do you understand who they are? And to understand who they are, you have to really sit with the artist and ask questions and honestly like the music. Because if you really like the music, then you're understanding who their audience is, because you start looking. You're like, oh, I like their music, but gosh, they seem to call in girls under 12 years old. That's fascinating. So the practical tool is observation is part of it. And it's not necessarily mechanical. It's literally, to me, the individual that is able to discern, what am I looking at? And then from there, if you want to get mechanical, you might start doing data collection at a gig. And then you take that information and then you can funnel that in. It's like, oh, we looked at the gig, we got a bunch of signups. We recognize, again, this is, guys between 17 and 25 that seem to like that. You ask the audience questions, you figure out what kind of music they like, and then you cross reference. Those are different types of tools you can use. I don't think, Laurel, I mean, you and I weren't necessarily, when we're looking at bands to manage or market or work with or record, the practical tool was we were utilizing our internal compass.
Yeah, yeah, we were definitely, I mean, there was a lot of intuition,
Intuition.
and
Yep.
yeah, and just paying attention to like, oh, okay, well, I go to the show and I see a band playing, and I can see that like most of this audience is they're wearing like Dockers, and so this is like that's mainstream.
Yeah.
It's like, and you see certain clues of things where I'm like, huh, okay, I should tap into this. So it really is just like showing up. Number one, that is one of the biggest things that you can do in general, is just show up, even if you don't even have to say anything sometimes. It's like just show up and observe.
Yeah.
Watch what's
Just
happening,
watch. Yeah.
and basically you will start to put the pieces together on your own and or with the team, depending on the situation. And it's incredible. Once all those things start to kind of fit into play, you Tetris things together that make sense, that can highlight what's happening. And it really is a case by case basis. Of course, there are amazing case studies of how someone broke whom. But I look at like a band like Geese and I'm like, okay, like this band has been around for a minute, kicking around New York, getting love. The client that they had tapped to be on their festival because they had a little Geese festival. It was small at the end of 2024. They weren't like, and then I was like, what happened? Like, we still don't know what happened. The people who booked them don't even know what happened. Like all of the sudden, this zeitgeist happened, and Geese is a household name. So it's like it's a very interesting thing. And again, going back to like just keep showing up, keep doing things, keep building, keep writing, keep recording, keep trying to figure out ways to make an impression. And then all the impressions will hopefully add up to something that makes an impact.
And that somebody's gonna receive, because I think the other thing is when we talk about the zeitgeist, there's a lot of zeitgeist moments, and you try to break it down and be formulaic. But one thing is, for the most part, some people get really lucky. I'm like, wow, that's so mediocre. I don't understand. But when I look at the stuff that I can get behind, it was the consistency, it was the continued curiosity, it was, not giving up. It's so exhausting. We can see, because we come from an indie world as well, uh, that it can be completely lonely and tiring, and you've been banging on doors. It's like if you were being an actor, or you've got a script that's just been out there for 20 years and all of a sudden it hits. That does happen. So I think I have some people on the call that they've been artists for a long time. It's just staying relevant. That's really true to you. So if we want to move on to the next slide, we can.
Yeah,
Uh,
let's do it. Okay. Yeah. I mean, we kind of touched on this a little bit. Um, you know, physical is it's happening right now. Whether you're a punk band or a pop band or whatever it may be, there vinyl is moving. And it does give the fan a different experience, right? You have something you can touch, you can see the whole thing in your hands, and it's just a different experience, that connection between the artist and the product. I hate using that. It's, the recorded material and the artwork and the credits and everything just being in your hand at one time, and really just like being in it all at once in the privacy of your home or wherever you are listening to vinyl is really, it's here, and people are buying vinyl. Our runs keep growing, and it feels really nice to see in the world of 2D, 24/7, the three-dimensional world is still very relevant. And, when it comes to like actually sitting down and taking the time, vinyl will build a much closer connection when it
here,
comes to.
here's something I want to talk about, because we use fans with artifacts, right? So let's just say I'm an artist and I don't have the money to print vinyl. I still too believe in artifacts. So to think about, if I'm super lo-fi, don't have any real cash for that, to help also think about what else can that artist make that's
Mhm.
relevant. And so that tactility that Laurel's talking about, that be with and that physical connection, it deepens the emotion. So if you're an artist that can't afford vinyl, there are other ways that you can create, and maybe it's a piece of artwork that you make and you just go to the Xerox machine, you just print the artwork and it's got the lyrics and that's all you can do. That is something. Like, don't give up on the fact that vinyl is amazing if you can do it, but is there another way that you can create, so sorry, is there another way that you can create relationship with your audience? And there are. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah, so you
I
talk about
mean,
punk rock,
well,
you
you
can
want to
talk
you
about
want to
all
have
that.
fans first before you start pressing vinyl.
Yeah, of
So
course.
vinyl is not cheap, and so to your point about like not having the resources quite yet to make a vinyl article. Um, yeah, you can, if you're playing shows and you want to like create a patch or create something, like again, I said go to the thrift store and like repurpose things. Like if you want to make a shirt, you can do things really cheaply if you just get creative as an artist and start thinking about it. It shouldn't look like anything or anyone else. It should be your thing. So as a creator, 100% just get out there and start thinking about, like, what do I like? The singer of Teen Mortgage, he's a skateboarder. So we really leaned into that when I started getting into their world. And I was like, okay, first thing, we're going to have a beloved Thrasher editor write your bio. I'm like, I'm going to have my buddy, he's the guy, he writes for the Bible of skateboarding, which is Thrasher. And I'm going to have him do your bio. And he did it. And basically, what started to snowball from that was so many things. I mean, the band, from him writing that bio and that connection being made, the band went into a physical space many, many times now because of that. They did the Rockstar Energy Drink combs in Portland, which is huge, like massive, like amount of pro skaters, and them playing on a stage in front of, like, thousands of people, and all the pro skaters doing the calm there that weekend. It was incredible. And then we decided, okay, we don't, this band is not rich, but we still, like, we want to create these physical moments. We ended up doing a give back day in their hometown, which the give back day, it basically, like, it went with a 501c3, that this particular Chris, the Thrasher guy, he runs this 501c3. And we said, let's build, and let's, like, we'll get skateboards donated, so the band didn't have to pay anything, and this will be underneath the banner of the 501c3 that Chris runs and Teen Mortgage collaborating. And they basically created a give back day where they gave back skateboards to their community, to kids who are, not as, that don't have any money.
So this
And
is,
it became this really incredible physical moment
yep.
where Teen Mortgage could be there giving back the skateboard and the helmet and the shoes. Everything was donated. No one had to pay for anything.
So there are a couple of things I
So,
want to point out that Laurel has brought up because I feel like a lot of our artists are DIY. If
mhm.
you're more DIY and you need to be cognizant of your spend, your budget, one thing is if you do, go to a thrift store, go to garage sales, look at things, get inspired, use some materials, be different, explore, express yourself creatively in that way. So you're not having to go to print or do whatever, get vinyl. So that's one. Number two, which is really fascinating too, if it's in your DNA to be of service, to be um, uh, uh, philanthropic or altruistic, think about uh, there's three things actually I want to say. What Laurel said. If you are altruistic or philanthropic, also think about, well, gosh, I might want to give back my music and play to at their charity, or I might you go because you're trying to get more experience and get out there and utilize the resources that are there. Maybe you go to your local charities and say you'll give a gig to help them make money. Maybe you go and play to the elderly because that's something, and at least now you're practicing and rehearsing and you're getting an audience and you're at least feeling fulfilled by getting to play if a club isn't booking you. Like there's many different ways you can continue to generate and keep your energy up and your profession up. The other thing I wanted to say is not only with the playing out live, oh man, and the DIY part about there's some other little piece I wanted to keep talking, but there's some great things that Laurel is pointing out for you that I'm going to just shift a little bit because I understand so far, pieces of our Pandion audience, they're not as well versed. And the reason why they're not as well, not versed, that you're maybe not as well funded. And the reason why I wanted to bring Laurel to talk is because she understands that. She came from, we've come from, like, eating out of, soup cans or what, like we were just like not a lot of money. We had to be very smart about how we approach things. We had to just keep showing up. She's saying that this band worked really hard and they've gotten really blessed. So this is a beautiful story that you can aspire to, but also to keep you engaged in between it and how you can rely on yourself and Pandion to be here as a resource if you get stuck with ideas, and that Laurel is here since we have her. Do not be shy and ask her any question, not just about Teen Mortgage if you have one, because she's highly knowledgeable. But as she's talking, I just want to be able to point things out to ensure that you're thinking about your career in this way. You're seeing that there are options for you and it's just not a dead end. So keep going. Sorry to interrupt, but
But yeah, I think we can go to the next slide. Well, again, back into like your who you are as an artist. We were very, very strategic, and when it came to teen mortgages, visual language and their behavior and their tone and everything that they do, the way that we jumped off when we first started doing the new record, I was like, well, we don't need to change anything from where they were. We recorded with the same person that recorded their DIY EPs. We basically hired the same illustrator who, you know, he gave them their look, like the way that this band's artwork and for their t-shirts, for their album art, like their single art, it's really striking. And I was like, well, we don't need to change a thing. This band already is building on this. And then the first video we did on their album, that came out through Roadrunner, I was like, let's animate their characters. They have all these characters within their visual language. Like there are actual, like there's a Grim Reaper, there's a clown, there's like, there are characters that I'm like, these are your mascots. If you're like Iron Maiden, you have Eddie, right? So this is like, these are their mascots. And like if you're the gorillas, you have all of those characters are like, those, that's it. That's their visual language. That's who they are. So these characters, we started to really lean in. The first video was built around animation, and then the second video became live action with the characters coming to life in like human form. So if you watch, from box to party, you'll see like we built out a whole set, and we did this super DIY and scrappy. Like this set, I think it cost like $1,500. I know that's like, oh, it's all relative to how much money you have. That can be a lot, or that can be not that much. But we were very mindful about, all right, we're going to now turn this into live action. And we did. And we've continued it on. And like people are, I mean, there's so many teen mortgage tattoos with these characters from all their fans. Like so many people have been posting their tattoos of their characters. So this visual language, this tone of what this band is creating, it plays into all of this. Like the community is there. The live experience is very much, these are circle pits, these are stage dives, these are like people coming together. Their first headline tour this past year, for major markets, 90% sold out. And then we were offered a big tour with a band called The Hives, and we actually turned that down and did a tertiary market to actually show we can sell tickets. Like it's great to be the forever opening band for a while, but we really wanted to show the promoters we can sell tickets, and it's happening because all of this stuff we're doing is creating a culture around this band.
I have to say that
And
really quick, what's
yeah,
really important to what Laurel's saying that you all, if you live in America, is that tertiary markets, secondary and
oh yeah,
tertiary and
sorry.
fourth markets, they don't get the kind of love that all these major markets get. So when an artist goes through there, you can even make your practice run through these secondary, tertiary markets. So you can get your chops, you can visit those clubs, you could build an audience there. They get overlooked. And already Teen Mortgage has love, so they did demonstrate that, and they didn't sell out and did the big Hive tour. But if you're not them and you're trying to develop your skills and you're trying to continue to ensure that you're keeping your live chops up, you want to maybe record your show live, you want to try and test some merch if you're able to do that. Start looking and strategizing about tertiary markets. Just to PS.
Well, to chime in though, before you go out there, be regional. Build
Yes,
up your
correct.
regional situation
Yeah, local and
because do
regional.
not go on tour like blindly. You will lose your butt
Yeah, no, I mean
monetarily.
local and regional build
Yeah.
up your story, but as you progress, take into consideration that tertiary markets don't get as much love as a lot of markets. So you just don't blindly go do it. But I'm just part of the scope is that looking at this, work your backyard first, regionally, as Laurel said, and then look to grow into something that where people don't get a lot of love. You even still, though, I worked with an artist. We did do a lot of pitching to clubs there in the tertiary market, and we were able to get a little bit more entry point because it was less competitive. So
Mhm.
it's many things, but your music has to be good, your sound has to be tight, you have to be decent, when you're going in there. There does need to be work to get to a point where you are even touring tertiary markets.
So I think next slide, because I'm running out of time. Looks like I'm like, oh. Um, so let's see.
We have about 20 minutes if you do, but keep going.
I yeah, I think I thought it was at 4. We have to call.
Okay, honey.
So let's stay in the game. I mean, yeah, as far as like your intention and your commitment to the craft. I mean, nothing happens overnight, and I'm still learning and I'm still building, and I will be learning and building until I decide I don't want to do this anymore. Like no one knows anything, especially today. Like we have experiences, we have some understanding, we have like some, no one has this business figured out. And it's even weirder now. And things can happen in ways that, like, you can't, like, to force create a viral moment. I've seen good stabs at it. I've seen that, and it works to a degree, absolutely. Um, in that way, whether it's TikTok or like creating some kind of material that you feel like will end up, really really sticky. But when it comes to just really believing in what you're doing and the stay in the game thing, it's like that's all there is, and no one owes anyone anything, and you just have to love and believe in what you're doing. And if you're here, that's already a good sign that you care about what you're wanting to learn and do. And so anyone that shows up to conversations like this, I would always be like, "Oh, cool. You're putting your time in. You're really like committing to uh working on what you want, working towards what you want to do and be." So, kudos for you guys for showing up. You
Thank
guys, thank you
you.
so much for having me. And yeah, I really love seeing everybody's commitment here to learn. We need good people in this business. So, this is a great sign of that.
All right, my love. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Thank you so much, doll.
Bye.
Right. Be well. Thank
You
you.
too. Bye,
So
everyone.
thank you again for everybody coming today. And we just wish you well and keep on the lookout. Next week we have Laura Escuday, who was the first licensed Ableton, I think, teacher for Ableton. She's very, very well versed. She's worked with so many different artists. She's going to give information, if you use Ableton, how to best integrate that into your creativity. So we hope everybody shows up next week. Again, we can't do it without you. We're here for you. We value you, and we look forward to any direct questions you have to us via hello@pandionmusicfoundation.org, and just take care of yourselves. Just sending each of you so much warmth and care. Take care. Thank you. Bye for now.